Welcome back to another episode of In Depth with Academia. I'm Richard Price, the founder and CEO of Academia EDU, and I'm thrilled you're tuning in. Today we're diving into a paper titled BAYYINAT RABBANIYYah, authored by Jalaluddin Ahmad al-Rawi. As always, I'm not here to endorse or criticize, just to present the ideas and let you decide what you think. Alright, so what's this paper all about? Well, at its core, BAYYINAT RABBANIYYah tackles a really deep and perennial question. What is the nature of divine clarity or heavenly evidence? This concept isn't just a philosophical curiosity, it's actually woven into how societies have approached religious interpretation, spiritual certainty, and ultimately how people decide what's truth and what's not quite so true. You can see why this matters, right? If humanity is always searching for certainty, especially about really big existential stuff, then understanding claims to divine evidence can shape how groups and individuals actually live their lives. Now, Rawi's approach is, well, it's kind of fascinating because instead of sticking with familiar Western frameworks, he draws heavily from classical Islamic thought, referencing intricate theological debates and linguistic analyses to unpack this concept of bayinat, which, by the way, can be loosely translated as clear signs or manifest proofs. I couldn't help but notice how much emphasis the paper places on meanings within the Quran, discussing how these signs function as both rational arguments and spiritual signposts. Think of it as a blend, logical demonstration meeting transcendent experience. Speaking of methods, Rawi's not just riffing off personal opinion. The paper systematically reviews primary religious texts, ancient commentaries, and a boatload of philosophical treatises. We're talking textual analysis, comparative theology, semantic unpacking, the works. The author is really trying to connect dots across centuries, showing how concepts of divine clarity have morphed but also kind of remained rooted. There's a methodological richness here, even if you're not like super into religious studies, just seeing how arguments are built, linked and challenged. It's kind of cool. So what does Rawi actually find? Or maybe a better way to put it, what kind of arguments does he lay out? Central to the paper is the idea that bayinat isn't just about intellectual persuasion. It's an interplay between rational evidence and a kind of inner, maybe even mystical realization. According to Rawi, the most effective foundations for belief and moral action come when these two streams converge, when heavenly proof not only convinces the mind, but also stirs the heart in a way that intellectual argument alone sometimes just can't do. There's also this point about language. The paper unpacks how the very structure of Arabic, especially in classical religious contexts, loads extra layers of meaning onto these clear signs, making the term richer, more nuanced, and maybe a bit more challenging to translate. And Rawi goes further to argue that the role of bayinat has enormous social implications. It's not just personal. The communal acknowledgement or even disagreement over what counts as divine evidence can either unite or divide. He points out historical cases where different interpretations led to, well, pretty significant shifts in society, ethics, and law. Not gonna lie, as I was reading, I started thinking about how, in all sorts of communities, not just religious ones, evidence and who gets to say what counts as evidence shapes everything from friendships to political movements, but maybe that's just me rambling. The conclusion of the paper circles back to this idea: we can't, or at least shouldn't, treat divine clarity as an open and shut case. The very fact that these debates persist means we're dealing with living questions, not static dogmas, Rawi insists, and I'm just the messenger here, that our search for certainty and connection to something greater, call it God, truth, moral ideals, should be approached with both rigor and humility. How's that for a takeaway? What does all this mean for you, the listener? Well, even if you're not studying religious philosophy, this paper invites us to rethink how we understand evidence, what it means for something to make sense, both intellectually and emotionally. It challenges us to acknowledge that certainty, especially about the big questions, is often complex, multi-layered, and maybe best approached as a journey rather than a destination. Alright, I know that was a lot to unpack. But isn't it wild how a single concept, bayinat, or divine clarity, can ripple through language, philosophy, social structures, and even our own attempts to make sense of life? Remember, this is just one scholar's perspective, not universal or final answers. That's the beauty of academic work. It opens a door, not a prison. Thanks so much for joining me on In Depth with Academia. I'll catch you next time with another journey into the world of academic discovery. Stay curious, everyone. Until next time.